So ESPN writer Bill Barnwell recently did a mock draft where he had every first round pick involved in a trade. Now, I'll give you the scenario for the Atlanta Falcons here in this trade proposal because every pick was traded in the first round. Again, they having a little bit of fun and this, that, and the other, and for whatever mocks are and different things like that. Okay, so the Falcons make a trade with the New York Jets, where the Falcons give up the eighth pick and pick number 75 in the third round. The Falcons get back pick number 13, pick number 43 in the second round. So that means they would pick 43 and 44 in the second round, and wide receiver Corey Davis. Okay. Now, I know a lot of Falcons fans were excited about, number one, the idea of trading back just in general, that they were excited about the idea of trading, down in the draft. Okay. And Corey Davis is an intriguing player. He's a wide receiver. He's obviously got some production to him. I'm not telling you he's top tier. I'm not telling you he's Diggs or Tyreek Hill or one of those guys, but he can be a productive player. Obviously, he's got some familiarity with Arthur Smith and the time in Tennessee and different things like that. So when I look at this trade, and this is what I think about something like this, okay, when you're talking about trading back, okay, like I look at this trade and I say, okay, we give our first and third round pick to the Jets. We get their first and second and Corey Davis. I don't think that's enough. And see, that's what you get into. I don't think that's enough in capital back. Number one is 13-8 should cost you more money in today's NFL. Now, yes, we get their second round pick, but we're also giving up our third round pick for that. So I don't like it from that standpoint of just the pure draft capital that we get. And then you throw in Corey Davis, okay? And I'll say that this is the problem, with Corey Davis. But here's the thing. Corey Davis has a cap hit this year of $11.2 million. I mean, it's $11.1667 million on the cap. So let's call it 11.2. And then he becomes a free agent after the year. Now, unless you're telling me that the Jets are going to pick up some of that contract, this is a trade that to me doesn't do a lot for the Atlanta Falcons. I keep talking about the idea of the Falcons are in a really good position at 8 that allows you to possibly pick the best corner in the draft, possibly pick the best offensive lineman in the draft, possibly pick the number 1 or number 2 defensive edge in the draft. I mean, if you think Will Anderson is the best edge in the draft, we're not going to be in the mix for, then probably number 2. Or, dare I say, whether it's quarterback, whether it's running back, whether it's wide receiver, you're going to have all of the best of those guys on the board. Now, I'm not in favor of picking those guys and things like that, but I don't need another. And this is the thing. I need a wide receiver. I don't need an $11 million wide receiver on this roster, right? That's like buying all the chandeliers and you don't even have a roof over your house. And this is what we've done. And this has been the philosophy of what we've done the last couple of years in the first round of the draft. Now I do understand that the quarterback scenario was going to be different a couple of years ago in Arthur's first year. They were either going to go after Deshaun Watson or they thought that they had Matt Ryan as a backup plan, right? That if it didn't go through with Deshaun, Matt Ryan would be here and he would help this team and blah, 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 right? Well, we saw how that all worked out, right? Like nothing happened with all of that. But I don't need another 11 million. I don't need a guy at 8 and a guy at 4 to catch passes. And then I draft I trade for a guy that cost me $11 million at wide receiver. Like I don't need those things. Why would I give up first draft capital and move down to where, okay, now I'm not selecting the best 1-2 edge rushers. Now I don't have a chance to pick up the best offensive lineman. Now I don't have a chance to pick up, a premier player, because I'm taking like second, third people and stuff like that. All for Corey Davis? To get Corey Davis? I like Corey Davis, but Corey Davis ain't Jamar Chase. Again, if I could have Jamar Chase or Corey Davis, who would I pick? If I could get a guy, I'd rather draft my next Jamar Chase or, Julio Jones than I would be to take up Corey Davis and add a second round pick. And then I still give up my third round pick. Like, these things don't make any sense and I understand that they're writing an article and Bill Barnwell's, he's a good writer and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to the practicality of what the Falcons are, this is the old Peter King theory, right? That Bill Barnwell knows more about the NFL across the league than I'll ever know, okay? But I know a lot more about the Atlanta Falcons than Bill Barnwell ever will know. He can have a cursory view of things from 35,000 feet. I'm neck deep into it down here in the trenches and things like that. So that's not a shot at Bill Barnwell. It's just the reality of the situation. We live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep, all those things. So again, these things on the surface, if you're just a fan of an NFL team, Team Y, yeah, okay, well, Corey Davis, good wide receiver, played for Arthur Smith, and they need a wide receiver and all this and the other. But we don't need an $11 million wide receiver. I'm losing my ability to take the best player at different positions in the draft. This doesn't make sense for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't see a scenario where the Atlanta Falcons would get into something like this. Now again, this is all hypothetical and things like that, but you have to look at the mindset of what these writers propose going out there. That why do they do this? Okay, well, they think that they need a wide receiver. They think that Corey Davis could be a guy, got some ties with us. Okay, but when you dive down into it, these things don't make a lot of sense. They don't make sense for this franchise, and maybe the same thing is being said in Detroit. Maybe the same thing is being said in Seattle, whatever like that, okay? That when you dive down into it and you get into the nuts and bolts of everything with this franchise, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So again, I like Corey Davis. I don't like an $11 million price tag for a wide receiver. That's like putting custom rims on a Ford Pinto. I don't need to do all of that. Like Corey Davis, but just not the $11 million price tag that is coming along with him. All right, we remind you to make Hittin' Hard your first listen every day. And when you go there and listen to our podcast, make sure that you leave us a note in the comments about being an everyday listener. So we're trying to give a shout out to our everydayers, as we like to call them. So we want to recognize and find out who those folks are. So if you listen in every day, when you listen to the Hittin' Hard episode, please leave us a comment, YouTube, wherever. Leave us a comment and let us know that you are an everyday listener. We thank you so much for listening every day, and we want to recognize the fact that you do listen in every day to our podcast. So we thank you so much for all of that.